So the reality in 2022, we kind of need to look at what's different, what's changed, what happened over the last 2 years that kind of changed our voices and changed the way we use social media. And one of those ways is to understand that with small business particularly, is that e-commerce or discovery commerce, we call d-commerce, has completely changed everything. It's something which has gone from being it'd be nice to have that, and maybe one day we'll look at getting e-commerce, to the point where a lot of small businesses, particularly those who are selling food, delivery services, homewares, anything like personal skincare and all that sort of stuff. Not having e-commerce makes you the exception rather than the rule. Not having e-commerce means you're heavily disadvantaged. And thankfully, there's some other, the links aren't working for you today. Sorry, Lorinda, I don't know what you mean by the links are not working. There's no links on here, so I'm not sure what's going on. But hopefully you can see what's on the screen. The people are engaging with video content now more than ever before. By the way, it is live, so you can always pop in some messages to the chat window or to the Q&A, and I'll answer those as best as we can as we're going along. Now, the people with engaging with video content, we noticed that over the last 2 years, the amount of video that's being consumed, it doesn't matter whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Netflix, YouTube, all of them have exploded. Some of them have exploded by 70 to 80% more people than before. And it's amazing how much of the new material coming from small businesses and entrepreneurs has also swung in that direction. And of course, customers are using business messaging more than ever before. I'm not going to go too much heavy into the messaging, but we're relying less upon giving phone calls through to companies and businesses to catch up with them. And customer service and inquiries are more increasingly coming through things like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger as well. So if you're ahead of all these, that's great. Most businesses aren't. But we're starting to see a very big disparity in the performance of those businesses on Facebook and Instagram, particularly, who are embracing these things and those who are not. Not because Facebook's trying to promote them, but simply because this is what people now expect. They've now had a taste of e-commerce and of video and of messaging as a way to contact the business, and they want more. For instance, here's 3 local Australian brands: Ginger Pink, which is a boutique in Darwin; Kakadu Blue, who sells a bunch of well-being related Australian blue cypress infused essential oils, mists, and body products. Really great products. 100% Australian made and owned, and they're all now selling not just through their websites or their shops or their market stalls. They're now also selling through things like Facebook and Instagram shopping, which means you've got this opportunity now to bring your physical products that you sell. Now, if you're a service, this isn't available to you, but obviously for physical products, this is where you can come. And Anti-Beauty, which is from a guy called Benjamin in Perth, who is going forward with this amazing set of skincare stuff, which I've been using as well to try and clear up my skin, which has done amazing work of. Like, I've got the fine lines and wrinkles much better, than what they were before. And I've just been using, I can't really sing his praises enough, because it really works for me. So apart from e-commerce, we then understand that, I guess, that everything shifted online. We really, at the beginning of the big P word, the pandemic word, we didn't really have a lot of this click and collect stuff. There was a little bit of it around, but then it became really common. You could order something, turn up to Woolies, bundle it in the car, drive off, or you could have it delivered. There's a lot more shopping starting to happen from mobiles, because we were spending much more time in front of television screens and Netflix and areas like that. So it meant that we had our mobiles with us the whole time. We've also got this magical thing that happens now, that when we're watching regular broadcast TV, we can often be in front of the TV and we see an ad come up and we go, bang, looking for it straight away, right there on our mobile phones. Another area that I found is fascinating is I've got a new pair of glasses here from Specsavers, and I actually tried those glasses on before I even went to the store. I didn't even have to try them on the store, because I knew they were going to look fine on me. That's because of Specsavers using a virtual product visualization. And that means basically you go to their website and you go, look at their range of glasses. You do a scan of your face by just turning it around slowly like that, so they can see what your face looks like. Then you try on the glasses. You can actually see which glasses do suit you and which don't. And they've got some recommendation algorithms in there as well, which allow you to do that. So this kind of stuff, all really took off in the last 2 years, and it got really good to the point where I could trust that enough to go. I went into the store and they said, "Oh, what frames would you like? Have a look at the frames, spend some time." I said, "Oh no, I just want those." And they're like, "Oh, how do you know?" And I went, "I tried them on the website." And they're like, "Oh, really? No one ever does that." So those kind of things are making our lives a little easier. Taking online consultations, if you're a personal trainer, or if you're a wellness coach, or a digital coach, anything like that, business coach, life coach, whatever you happen to be, you can now take online consultations through bookings through Facebook Messenger. They can go to your page, make an appointment if you've set that up, and it can connect through to your calendar, your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, to check your availability and make sure people can book. That kind of thing has become increasingly important, as have things like live streamed shopping events, which are all about doing a live and then being able to tag your products into the live, so you can show someone this product, show them this scented candle, this skirt, this piece of apparel, and then tag that into your live chat so people can actually buy it from there in the middle of the live stream. Now, if this all sounds really foreign to you and really far out and way more advanced than what you're ready for, it's okay. Baby steps. You don't have to handle all this all at once, but you do have to bear in mind that these are the trends that have come across in the last 2 years. Shopping habits have changed. We used to make shopping an event. We'd have to go as like a way that we had to like set aside Thursday night or Friday night late night shopping and go to the local Westfield shopping town or Casuarina Square or wherever your local big shopping center is. And that was your time to do shopping. Now, shopping has become a thing that we're always doing. We don't even have to be at a shopping center or in a shop in order to do that. We can just be always shopping while we're watching TV. We see an ad for something and we go, "Oh, I'll look that up." And you can actually buy it straight away on your mobile phone. That stuff has happened. So shopping isn't a function or a task that we need to achieve anymore. It's something we always are doing. For instance, I often get a reminder to go, "Oh, what am I having for dinner tonight?" And I go, "Oh, it's starting to run low on the fridge. I might just go pop on my phone and order from Coles my delivery, and it comes the next day." So that kind of thing has changed our habits remarkably. Now, some people haven't changed their habits at all. They do the same thing as they've always done, and that's fine as well. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to worry too much about whether you are following those trends as a consumer or not. These trends aggregated over a lot of people of what we've noticed. The problem is, though, it's also given us a lot of choice and a lot of confusion. And that means there's now, instead of going to the chemist and knowing what, looking at a range of things to buy at a chemist in terms of skincare products, that sort of thing, well, we can't really do too much of that because simply because we had restrictions with lockdowns, and there was, we didn't want to go near a chemist because chances are there's going to be someone in there with COVID and passing it along to you. So what we found is a proliferation of skincare products that went beyond the Revlons and the general brands that we all have known for many years. And now everyone can start up their own skincare brand. You can essentially formulate your own skincare routine and brand and sell it. And that's something which people have done en masse. There's now more than 80,000 skincare brands just on Shopify alone. So that's 80,000 different formulations of skincare that people have started themselves. Some of them are pros. Some of them are just rank amateurs like you and I. It's all that sort of thing. Alexandra, I do recognize that you've got your question there. It's that's not covered in this. That sort of thing just has to go with the procedure that Facebook's given you. So Alexandra's asking if you've got a contact at FB that can help with account gets restricted. I don't personally. That's all handled offshore. None of that gets handled in Australia. I've only got contact with the Australian office through their policy and their training section. Sorry. So next up, then we look at the fact that infinite variety causes stress with people. So what we need to do is start to address that with a bit of personalization. By personalizing the experience to a specific kind of people, then we're all able to feel better about the choices that are laid in front of us, because not only do we get overwhelmed with choice. Let's say you walk into a supermarket and you go to buy some peanut butter and there's 30 different kinds of peanut butter, and you just go, well, I buy this peanut butter because it's the one that's sort of made for me. It's the one that's got no added sugar, no added salt. It might be crunchy. It's a personalized product just for you. The same thing happens with online, is that these these different personalized ways of you advertising and promoting yourself, making it specifically geared towards a specific kind of person, means that you have something which cuts through that overwhelm, and something where people can go, yes, finally I found a peanut butter, a skincare regime, a personal trainer who works just for me. What we used to do with just e-commerce, if you had a e-commerce store online, is that we would wait for people to come to us, and hopefully they'd find a product they liked and they buy it. Simple, right? Until we went from having 200 e-commerce stores to millions of them. It's overwhelming, the choice of different e-commerce properties you can go to buy anything today. Then came along a thing we call discovery commerce. And this is where shops started to be able to be embeddable in things like Instagram and in Facebook and in even TikTok these days and Pinterest. You can actually buy straight from the pins, buy straight from the posts, buy straight from the feeds. And that changed everything, because what it allowed us to do is not just for us to go looking for things. Things are now coming looking for us. So if we just go, well, if I have to go shopping once a year for my men's clothing, that would be an overwhelming experience, because I've got this one time I have to do everything. I go out at a specific time to buy the thing. Whereas if I buy it in dribs and drabs across the year, based on the things that I discover, because I've shown interest in that topic and interest in those products in the past, they discover me, particularly on something like Instagram, where shopping is so indelibly linked with the experience. It's not like on Facebook, where business kind of feels like a second-class citizen, because we go, well, we've got our page and we've got our posts and all that, no one's ever seeing them. But on Instagram, it's like, oh, more people are seeing my stuff. That's because the platforms are very different. Instagram was made from the very beginning to be inclusive of brands and businesses, because that's what people were posting so much. So, influencers showing the products they're using, people showing the things that they love and enjoy, products that they like, services and people that they want to follow. So what we've done is found that the more successful businesses which are selling something online, particularly using tools in Facebook and Instagram, have created profoundly personalized experiences through making sure that things like their ads are targeted towards the right people. So with ads particularly, you've got the ability to target specific interests. Those interests in the first case would be male fashion, leisure, cyclist, city, commuter, office, the kind of person and the interest that person would have that's related to that product. Then you can go, okay, well, for the next sponsored post, which is someone who's artistic, who's into blogs, online quizzes, they're into fashionista brands, and they have affinities with different kind of areas, they will be interested in those shoes. And the third shoes, rather than looking at heels or pumps or whatever the category of shoes is, you look for, well, this is the kind of person who's going to be looking for all-day support. So they could be traveling, they could be into skincare, speed walking, although you probably wouldn't do it on those heels, yoga, or they're an event coordinator. So you can look at beyond just people who are interested in women's shoes, or looking for people who are into the Diana Ferrari brand or Jimmy Choo's, and go for the kind of lifestyles that the people are living that would be interested in your shoes. Because you might say, oh, I want to sell my shoes to everybody. That's not how the online world works. It works upon personalization, and personalization helps to create a more premium brand for you. The other trend that's come up really big is the growth of video, and I'm sure you've all seen it. You probably watch more Netflix over the pandemic period than you've ever done. Video consumption of Facebook dramatically increased. Through Facebook Watch, 9 million people in Australia come through there on every month, and that's probably gone up even more since then. That's you don't even realize you're doing it. You watch one video on Facebook and then another one comes up. That's Facebook Watch. It's kind of like YouTube but on Facebook. What it does, though, it recommends personalized content. So that some of that personalized content will be other creators who are creating things that you'll be interested in. Some of that content is going to be from businesses that are advertising relevant products and services for what your interests are that you're showing. And what we've found is that when people find that something's personalized towards them, it immediately comes across as being more premium. That's what you want to be. You don't want to be competing with Kmart. You don't want to be competing with Target. You don't want to be competing with Coles and Woolworths and Bunnings. You want to be in the premium space. That's where people will actually look for very specific things about you that they feel that relate to them. They will pay more for them, and they ultimately won't be looking for a cheap fix like they'll be doing on a weekend drop through Kmart. And I think we've all done that before and walked away with 5 items that we never really intended on buying before. According to a lot of surveys that are run below, you probably won't be able to read the details down the bottom of the page, but they're Ipsos studies, which are being run, are commissioned by Facebook for an external company to find out what relevance means when it comes to video. And it's the number one most important reasons why consumers would decide to watch a video on social media is because it's relevant to their interests. You use YouTube, and if you want to watch something, every time you go into YouTube, it brings up a list of videos that are highly relevant to who you are and what your interests are. The number one attribute for video to be considered premium if it's relevant. And that's the number one attribute out of 20 different attributes that were listed for making sure that video was premium is because it's relevant. And it's a number one factor for someone to engage with an ad over things like the length of the video, the production values, or even the service that's being recorded, that's been in there. As long as it's relevant to that person, that's the number one factor. That's why when we try and go viral and we're trying to do these things that are utterly irrelevant just to get engagement, we're actually damaging our brands, and we're actually not helping ourselves to get any greater following at all. Because you may get someone, a whole 50,000 people to like your weird quiz or your story about what's the one food that you missed from 20 years ago. It doesn't bring in relevant engagement to what your product or service is. So you really try that in an attempt to get so lots of cheap likes and lots of cheap engagement on a post. You're not helping your brand. You're not helping your page. You're not helping your Instagram. All you're doing is diluting what it is you're about. So the people who are actually interested, they see that post and they go, and they ignore it. What you get like a quick sugar hit of a whole bunch of people coming in, but just as quick they go back out again, and they won't be back again because the other things you're posting about your business, that's utterly irrelevant to what they came to you for. It's a trap when you go for like huge engagement numbers that are outside of the people who you're most wanting to attract. Then you end up with irrelevant traffic, which never buys from you. The algorithm then doesn't penalize you. But what it does do is recognizes, okay, so this page doesn't really know what they're about. They get lots and lots of engagement on this thing. So that must be what they're about, as opposed to these things that don't work, which they actually are about. And it just confuses the algorithm. Stay true to your brand and true to who you are. The other thing to look at now is Reels. So if you haven't seen Reels or TikTok, you've probably been hiding under a rock for the last couple of years. Just one sec. I'm a couple of weeks after COVID, so I occasionally have to cough and blow my nose. So please just hold one moment as I do. That's better. Hopefully I'll be able to get through the rest of this webinar. And it's amazing how these long symptoms, they hang around for. Now, the rise of authenticity that we were looking before in that quote, also seeing the rise of short format video. And short format video we know as TikTok or Reels, or some other platforms have it as well. It's short format videos. In YouTube, it's called Shorts. What this is all about is the ability for us to use entertainment to connect with people. Now you look at that and go, how the heck can I, the owner of a small business in Australia, be an entertainer? How can I, for instance, become entertaining? I'm not entertaining. I'm just an average person with an average business and average goals in life. I'm not an entertaining person. You may not even be a particularly outgoing person. Entertainment is very much through the eyes of the beholder. So what might work for 16-year-olds on TikTok, for instance, may not work for your brand or even for you. It probably also doesn't work for your customer, who's probably going to be a lot more like you rather than a lot like a 16-year-old on Instagram Reels. So what you do is find the things that you're associated with. If you're a young, cool, hip brand, it's trying to get out there, you do silly things, you pull stunts, you do the dances, all that sort of thing. But when you're not that, you need to be authentic to who you are. And if that's not you, then pulling off all those stunts will do nothing for you. In fact, it'll just make you look kind of silly. So you got to find the things that are entertaining to your people, to your tribe, to your, if that is, if they're mums, then get into their world. What's entertaining about being a mum? What's a funny thing that you can put up there? Mum, mum life, or a hashtag, something like things that only mums would know. You add those things in, and suddenly you go, oh, this is really relevant to me. Or let's just say you're from Bustleton in WA and your customers are all locals as well. Actually making your short format videos about only in Bustleton or something like that, keeps it relevant to at least your geographical area. Or you can go fashion found in Bustleton, and you can basically take some photos of the really weird fashion combos in the street. And that can be highly entertaining. One of the most favorite Instagram accounts I've ever come across is called People of Walmart. It's basically about, an Instagram account that looks at photos of the things that people are wearing to Walmart in the US. So it's like going to Kmart, but wearing, clothes that nobody should be out of the house wearing. That entertainment doesn't have to be what we know Instagram Reels to be about. It can be entertainment about what's in the eye of entertainment for your customers and what you're able to pull off. The biggest thing about Reels is, though, that unlike all the other parts of, say, Instagram and Facebook, where really you have to be sort of shared to get to people beyond those who already follow you, Instagram Reels is the one section which has a discovery feature, which means that you can flick through Reels, and what will happen is it'll bring up more relevant things that you might be interested in, and then it goes broader. Because of how quickly these Reels happen and how quickly we flick through them or doom scroll through them, we get to this place where Instagram then says, okay, I'm going to suggest new stuff for you. And that's the magic of where you produce Reels. Now, most small businesses don't do Reels because they're scared of them. All you need to do is start doing them, and you suddenly get 900 views, 1,000 views, 20,000 views just from being present. Now, I get more views on a TikTok or a reel that I'm doing simply by being present. And I go, well, what's the one thing I can do? I travel a lot. So, okay, I'll get window seats and I record the process of being on that flight, taking off in midair, landing. And it's about a 30-second reel or a 15-second reel that's just tied together that moment. And I'll get, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 views of that. What does that mean? Well, it's 1,500, 2,500 people who are seeing my brand associated with what I'm doing that normally wouldn't see that. So that's how this works. Reels are the most important new part of Instagram, because this is essentially the future of what Instagram is going to look like. What we know as the feed and the bubbles at the top with the stories, all of that in the next 2 years will be folded into one feed that you'll flick up, just like you do with Instagram Reels or with TikTok. And the ones that are producing the short format, high impact videos will have all the engagement, all the views, and those who are just producing pretty photos of products will just fall to the bottom of the pile. So it's one of those areas that if you're not doing Reels, if you're not doing short format video, get on it, because it's the one place we can do so much more full length body shots. For instance, if you're doing body sculpting, or you're doing, like I can see Tracy's from, or if you're doing things like fashion, where you want to show off the full length of an outfit, using that full length can really, the full length is like the length of a human. So we can fit ourselves into these things much better, rather than just simply being a talking head in the middle of a wide screen. You've got less room to work with, but you'll have more of you to work with. There's a lot more possibilities with that. You can turn things around. There's sort of things where you put the hand over the video, you release it, and it's that change cut, where if I've changed my shirt by just simply going bang, change my shirt, then pull it back, and then someone can see my shirt's being changed. All those little tricks are available because you can do it on your mobile phone using that full 9:16 ratio of the space of a mobile phone. So great Reels basically follow simple principles. They're unique. They're all about what you can do using your voice, your ability, your creativity or lack thereof. Even uncreative things can be highly entertaining simply because they are so uncreative and awkward. Awkwardness is really good on Instagram Reels. It can be relatable. It's something people can personally identify with. Spilling coffee. I've got a COVID at the moment, so I can go, this is what my voice sounds like on COVID. And then 2 weeks later, record a bit, this is what my voice sounds like not on COVID. So I can go, well, okay, that's something that I can show that's very relatable because so many people have gone through or are going through this. You do things that are easy to recreate. So if you've got like your certain move, which is like that damning, block the camera and then make the quick change, release the camera, and now you can see that I've got the different outfit on. If you can master that move, or the ones where you make things go in down on side, then back up again, down the side, then back again, or whatever the little snap cut thing you want to do, that just make it so that you can just master that one little effect or that one little technique, and then do it again and again and again. No one's getting sick of it, because after how many hundreds of billions of views on TikTok and Instagram Reels and Pinterest and YouTube Shorts, no one's sick of those things yet. They're still going strong for many, many years. So just find a routine and get used to it. And then do the most simple thing you can. Don't plan out a whole script. Just do something super simple. Start by saying, this is how my day at work starts. It ain't going to start without a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And that's just that on its own is fine. And then do the next thing. What's the next thing you do at work that's to do with your business? So, okay, the next thing I need to do, I need to go into my calendar and start excuse me, start rescheduling things. And you go, okay, that's the next part of my day. Keep moving on and do things in quick, short, sharp updates that people can relate to. Be relatable, be you, do something that's easy to recreate, that's not going to take lots of time. That's how you get those things going. Now, that's all to do with reels and all to do with ads and the power of that thing. Now we look at the organic reach, which is probably where, let's face it, most of us are. In February 2022, a whole lot of things happened. And I was hearing from tons and tons of e-commerce people on Facebook and Instagram, from a lot of coaches and all that, who suddenly just went, oh, suddenly my reach on Instagram and Facebook has just plummeted. What's going on? Especially on Facebook. Like, I used to get, 200 views on this particular post, and now I'm getting 20. What's happened? Well, in February 2022, some big things happened. A war started in Ukraine. A massive flood event happened in northern New South Wales and southeast Queensland and moved right down through east coast of Australia. So you knocked out, over half the population of Australia was affected in some way, shape, or form by weather events. There was a massive return back to offices. People came back to the offices. In some cases, they've been away from offices for 2 years. There's also the return to travel. International travel started again. So suddenly all those things that you were doing, whether it's skincare or exercise or, life coaching, all those things that people were doing when they had tons of spare time during COVID, where they weren't having to commute all the time and they're working from home, suddenly the feeds on Facebook were filled up with stuff about the Ukraine, were filled up with stuff about the floods. That people had less time again because they were commuting again. So, up to an hour and a half, 2 hours of some people's days were chewed up again by commutes. And then people's spending habits, there's so much pent up demand for international travel. You've seen what the craziness of what was happening in Australia's airports over the Easter period. Sydney airport was just a mess. Melbourne wasn't much better. And even Perth airport was just having an absolutely horrific time with the amount of people that were coming through. The Gold Coast, half the restaurants are still not back open on the Gold Coast. And so people were having long waits for things. We're out of practice when it comes to travel. And so what we've been doing is spending an unseasonable amount of time planning and booking and changing travel plans, just so we can get back to some semblance of what we think is normal in our lives. All those things hit at once, and they're still continuing right through to now. The things that we've done for the last 2 years have changed. So what we find now is that at any time, attention on your posts and your organic efforts on Facebook and Instagram can shift away from the everyday. From what you've got used to, at any time that can go bang, things have changed. There's a war starting, travel's returning, people going back to work. There's, suddenly we've found that inflation, like petrol prices, for instance, people don't have the same amount of money to spend as what they did before petrol prices went up to what they did. That's going to have flow-on effects to everything we do. So what happens then? What's the difference? What have we seen between 2017, which is when there was a certain way of acting and doing things, and that's dramatically different 5 years later in 2022? Well, back in 2017, we used to use things like content calendars. We used to recognize awareness days. It's, the pink and purple polka dot ribbon day today, or things like throwback Thursdays and Fridays and motivation Mondays and all those sort of, the evergreen content that really had nothing to do with anything that we did, but it was a fun way of trying to get people to engage with us more. We're fun, look, engage with us. We were using a lot of Canva templates. There was obvious branding. We're shoving our logo on everything because we were told, make sure your logo shows up. And we're doing a lot of Facebook Live talking head stuff, where you get a talking head like I am right now, and they just rabble on and on and on and on about a topic, and people would watch it because it was new and it was very, very promoted. So, lots of people got sick of that. In 2022, Now on social media, particularly on Facebook, and particularly on Facebook, more specifically than Instagram, we're looking now at the power of contextual awareness, and I'll explain what that is in a second. High impact short format video, just like we're talking about in Reels. Behind the scenes content that's very real and authentic and something which we normally wouldn't see. What we call platform-based strategies, that the same thing doesn't work on all platforms. We used to go, oh, I'm going to just do that on Instagram and just share it through to Facebook as it is. And we realize, oh, wait a minute, why am I not getting any sort of following on Facebook here? Getting lots on Instagram, because you created something for Instagram and then you just assumed that people on Facebook would see that same kind of value, which they don't. Different kinds of people, different platform, different ways that people use them. And also looking at the fact that we need to now pay to play. It's a fact of it. In 2017 to 2022, nearly 1 billion extra people have been coming onto the platforms. That's going to have an effect. The biggest thing that happened, though, is that in that 5-year period, suddenly the big advertising agencies and the big companies, suddenly they discovered Facebook for the first time and started to flood it with millions and millions of dollars worth of extra advertising money, which means what happens is less space for you to advertise. The rate goes up, not just from supply and demand, but simply because there's now too much competition on there. They're spending big, so you need to spend a little bit bigger than what you were before. Otherwise, you don't get the same kind of reach that you used to. Simple supply and demand. The platforms got really, really busy. So what's wrong with the content calendar? We were shown that these things are so important that we want to be able to plan all these out. But the problem is with all planned out content really becomes fast, low quality content. It's stuff which it doesn't really make much sense to your business. It doesn't really necessarily make much sense to the customer. It's just you going, what can I get done in a weekend that I can plan for the next month? It also flags your page as low quality, because when you produce fast, low quality content through your content calendars, when you're not really thinking in terms of who the customer is and what their journey is and what their context is, you're producing stuff that people aren't engaging with. And if you're continually producing that stuff that people don't engage with, your page does get flagged as being low quality content and will not get promoted any further. So that's that offset, that the convenience is going to kill your page. And it has pretty much for everyone. The people who complain the most about their pages not getting much reach and not performing very well are the people who've automated so many of their process, and they go, oh, but it's not working. Well, because you took the humanity out of it and basically made it this almost like this robo page. There's no real thought of what's in it for the customer. And because it doesn't interest them, they're not going to interact with it either. That's where we get really, really lost. I think we get sort of thinking that we can make this very, very simple when it's actually kind of not. It can be when you're on the right track. What the poorly performing businesses on Facebook tend to have in common with each other is they tend to have very poor contextual awareness. And what I mean by that is, for instance, back in 2020 in April, I had a particular client I was working with who was selling activewear out of, I was actually in Melbourne selling activewear. And it's like, in April 2020, he said, I'm getting 20% less conversions on my ads on Facebook. They must be punishing me for something. Damn you, Zuckerberg. Facebook's trying to kill my business. The reality was that in April 2020, Melbourne went into lockdown, the world's longest lockdown. 20% of Australia's population lives in Melbourne. Another 20% lives in Sydney. When you have that many people in your market suddenly go into lockdown, their priorities change. There's no longer any gyms and sports venues that are going to be open. So the need for activewear becomes far less important. You're not going through it as quickly. You're exercising at home. You're doing your 1 hour exercise a day. You're going outside. You're not having to look as good. You put on a few pounds, so you're feeling like they're going to wear sloppier clothes. Activewear became way less important in the hierarchy of needs that people had when they went into lockdown in Melbourne. That lack of contextual awareness is you just going, well, I'm just producing what I'm producing, regardless of what's going on in the worlds of my customer, regardless of a war starting, regardless. If you can get that context and recognize that things are changing now, the world's changing, the things that people are going through, the things that are important to them, the things that they are focusing on are changing, then you start to produce content with that in mind. You don't have to say, I support Ukraine in order to be able to be in the customer's world. You just have to recognize that they've got different priorities right now. So understand that you may need to produce things a little bit differently. The other thing is irrelevant content. The worst the producers tend to be doing these things, the Fridays and the hump days, and they're happy Easter posts all over the place, and that's all great. But you've got to remember that none of these things have anything to do with your brand unless you're doing a sale or a promotion that's tying in with that. So it could be hump day. Rather than it's hump day, here's my 5% discount for hump day discount. Tie in those themes to something that's really like something real about your business or that's happening in people's lives. Friday is not a Friday if you work weekends like I do. Friday is just another day of the week for a whole lot of people. In fact, 40% of the population do not work 9 to 5. So to them, Friday is just another day of the week. Their days off could be Monday and Tuesday. So their Sunday is actually their Friday. So are you saying Sunday? No, you're probably not, because there's an assumption that we all work 9 to 5, and we don't. Most of us do. The rest of us don't. There's often single images being posted, and this is an important one because there's sort of a hierarchy of things that perform best on Facebook. First of all is video. Short format video performs the best, followed by long format video, followed by galleries of images, followed by single images and graphics after that, then text. That's the hierarchy of what performs best. So if you're not doing video, then what's the next best thing? A gallery of images, not one image or one graphic, a gallery of them. It will always produce at least 2 times the result of what a single image will. Video can produce 5 to 6 times what a single image will. So when you're producing things that are in the formats that people are consuming the most because they're enjoying it the most, or it gets their attention the most, then that's where you need to go. Even if it's just 2 photos side by side on the Facebook feed, that will go a lot further than what one single photo will. Just make sure they're relevant. Make sure they're good photos, not just crappy ones. Make them decent photos, or a photo and a graphic, some way to sort of mix it up a little bit. So I'm talking about things like this perform really badly because they're just quite simply just one thing. They're just one photo, and it doesn't feel that relevant to what people are looking at. Lots of talking heads, unfortunately, can be a bit of a problem too. So if you're into doing live videos or recording videos to put on your Facebook feed or on your Instagram, just you talking to a camera has absolutely no connection with anyone whatsoever. Even though evolutionarily we are linked to the idea of faces, we are very good with faces. We're drawn to faces. If we don't recognize that face, we just look straight away. Things you can do to offset that is to be, doing something a bit crazy if you need to. If you're not a crazy person, then just simply put up subtitles. And there's like things called Kapwing, Kapwing, which will help you to do that for free, to put up subtitles in the videos. And also get to the point really quickly, get to the point really soon in your video so that people know exactly from the first couple of seconds what you're talking about. None of this, hi, welcome, good morning, what a great day it is. Oh, it's Friday. Just get to the point. Let them know from the first 2 to 3 seconds what it is you're about, and you'll get much higher engagement on there. Another thing I want to talk to you about when it comes to how to better use Facebook in 2022 is understanding the customer journey and what that means for you. The customer journey is basically a process of awareness, consideration, and conversion. Awareness where nobody knows who you are. It's where they don't know you. They don't necessarily like you. They certainly don't trust you yet. And they don't really want what you're selling just yet. That's what we call the top of the funnel if you're looking at sales funnel. The awareness stage is where people don't know who you are and what you do and don't care. The consideration stage is where they do now know you. They might even like you. They don't quite trust you yet, but they're at least interested in what you're doing and what you're selling. Or they might be at least looking in that sort of area for people who do what you do. It's a lot more intentional people at this point because they are closer to this final stage, which is conversion, which is they know you, they like you, they trust you, and they're ready to buy from you. There's also a 4th stage called loyalty, which is all about their after-sales service and re-engaging people, or re-engagement is also the name of that, where you re-engage people to buy from you again. So in these 3 areas, that awareness, consideration, and conversion, it makes sense if we create our content around those things, because most of us just tend to go straight to conversion. We want the sale, so post something about the sale. But we're not considering that people who come to our pages, come to our content, are at different stages of that journey towards us. So if they're in some kind of journey towards you, then how do you create content that matches that. And this is by simply just going in the awareness stage. What we're doing is identifying the problem that the customer might have is something that we solve. So we go, okay, recognize what the problem is that they're having before telling them what our solution is, because they may not have that problem, may not even understand they have that problem until we paint it out in simple words to them. This person may not realize that they are losing an hour of their day because they haven't got a calendar that helps them to organize their day. So if you were selling a calendar solution, then just saying, here's my calendar means nothing to them, because simply they don't realize that they got this problem. But you start to say, hey, realizing that there's only 24 hours in a day and you find that you can't even squeeze in the things you've already got to do, but you know that there's time being wasted somewhere. Well, we've got the solution to that. So you first identify with what the problem is. Use video because it gets attention at this awareness stage, so people will notice you quicker, and make sure it's high impact. If you're going to talk, be up close and be very personal. Move around a bit, making sure that you're gesturing. You see a lot of people do that. I gesture a lot because I've got a bit of, Mediterranean in me that allows me to do that. And being high impact can mean colors, it can be brightness, it can be, holy powder being thrown at a screen, anything that's going to get attention. Then the next area is consideration, where you've got now in this kind of post more education about what the benefits are of your product or your service. So you're not saying now, oh, you have this problem, well, here's my solution. What you're doing is now assuming they've got the problem, because this is a stage of the journey where they have either come looking for you or they've been referred to you from somewhere else. You're educating people more about the benefits of working with you, or more about the benefits of using your particular products or services. It lets you show why you're special, allows you to, they call that unique selling proposition, where you're saying, this is what's different about us. And at this stage, I also like to throw in a bit of comparison. I will compare myself to other providers of what I do, simply because I know I'm favorably positioned for that. And even if I'm not, I say, well, they're better at this than I am, but I'm better at this, and this than what they are. So you can be realistic and actually highlight that you're not as good as them in one way, but there's 4 or 5 other ways in which you're way, way better. In the final stage, conversion, that's where we're looking at things like limited offers, coupon codes, competing on price point, offering guarantees and assurances, the things that are going to push someone over that line from being somebody that's viewing your content to actually buying your stuff. So that's where they're just dropping those little sweeteners. Let me sweeten the pot a little bit with this 5% discount. That sort of thing can really help move the needle when they've already got to know you, they like you, they trust you, but they're just not quite ready. They need a reassurance on whether they're doing the right thing. Discounts can do that, but there's other ways. You don't have to discount everything. In fact, I usually say discounting is the last thing you do. What you do is offer assurances, what your after sales service is going to be, how they can talk to you if there's something goes wrong, or whether your price point is completely competitive with what other people are doing. So an example would be in this, I'm going to use skincare because we've been talking about that today. So in the awareness stage of this skincare campaign, things like videos that have faces and splashes of water and color and movement and wow factor. Often they use very pretty people. I find the better impact is actually using people who aren't as pretty, aren't as young, and aren't as not in need of skincare as what those of us who are of certain vintage are. I think using older people in these ads actually is a point of difference and gets more attention. But faces are great for skincare. Splashes of water show freshness. Color is what makes the world go round with us. And then in the consideration area, we go, okay, let's produce something that's educating people about the ingredients and the benefits of those ingredients, and any sort of organic certification we might have, the range of different products we have for different types of skin, and what the options are of pricing and bundles and things like that. We're educating more about what our product does, why it's good for, why it's different, and some of the variations we have on how you can buy it, because they're getting pretty close to that buying stage now. In fact, only one step away, which is where the conversion is. Now we start adding in the bundles, the deals, the subscriptions, the free gifts, the price point, the discounts, all those kind of things, which help push someone over that. So we can say, buy this bundle of 5 different products from us, not from that particular network marketing company, but from someone else. And you get this discount, this deal, this free gift, this special price. So you can see that there's different content you can produce before we've even gone into the world of ads. We're just doing this now, just in organic posts. Now, I want you to look at creative considerations as a way to very easily make your posts much better. And the first thing is to keep your words short and sweet. People will discover more information about you if they're interested, but they're not going to be interested if you've got like 15 lines of content and emojis all over the place and it just becomes a mess. Simple graphics, simple photos, and simple words are saying enough to them for them to go into that consideration phase where they do want to learn more. What you ultimately want them to do is to go to your website because that's where they're going to buy the stuff, right? So if you keep it short and sweet and able for people to be able to consume it really, really simply, then you're going to much more likely get people to jump across into your funnel, into your other services, or to look through your other content at least on Facebook or Instagram. Secondly, have some kind of prompt for people to act. So in this one, they're saying, nothing better than a fresh bouquet of flowers to brighten your home. The call to action then is message us to get yours home delivered today. So if you can fit that in, short, sharp message with some kind of prompt of what's next, because we're just highly educated monkeys, and we really need to sort of get into that position where we can very easily pass on instructions. And those instructions are, here's some nice things about what we do. Now do this. Buy it here. See the range here. Message us to get your order in by 12 o'clock. Using hashtags on Instagram is really nice when it's used sparingly. If you've got like one of those posts which has got 15 different hashtags in it, it just looks like a mess. It becomes hard to read. People who have even the very slightest lot of dyslexia are going to find it impossible to understand. So your message is completely lost on up to 30% of the population who have varying degrees of dyslexia and issues with reading. I have a little bit of that myself. I'm very good with words. I'm very good at writing. I'm very good at reading. But when I see massive blocks of words, I have to essentially use a bookmark to cover the words underneath the ones that I'm reading. Otherwise, my eyes boggle everything together. There's lots of people just like me out there. The more words, the more clutter with hashtags, the worse it's going to look. Just use hashtags that are relevant to what you're selling, relevant to what's in the photo, and relevant to where you are in your business. You don't need to make every word a hashtag. You can use really common household tools to take better photos and videos all on your own. You don't have to get a video pro in there. Your phone will do most of it for you. You can use those little octopus leg tripods. I've got like a little gimbal that I use here that I bought for about, I think it was about, I don't know, $7 or $8 at Kmart. I think I got it for. It's really simple. It's got a light on it. So when I turn that light on, then it lights up a scene that I'm working in. You can get these things quickly and cheaply. Also at Kmart, get some contact paper and put it over some cardboard. So you've got like a consistent background or a consistent floor to take photos of your products on. Lots of natural light, using things like foam core to reflect that light back on your product can be really, really useful for doing these things as well. These are all really common things that are not going to cost you a fortune to do. Foam core you can get from Officeworks or from Bunnings. Natural light, well, just find the brightest spot in your home or in your office and do it from there. These things will help lift what those photos are, so they'll pop more. The more drama and the more nice your photos look, the more likely it is that someone will look at that. And even if they don't buy now, they'll still have that in the back of their mind. So when they see it again, they go, yes, that thing, I want to get that thing. Using a thing called the rule of thirds. Now, this is a hard thing to explain, but now you've got, you can put the grid on your mobile phone. So if you've got an iPhone or a pretty good Android phone, you can actually set a grid up. So it lets you sort of center things and compose your photo in a very good way. What this allows you to do is to put the moment of attention grabbing awesomeness in one of the intersecting lines. Now you think, oh, I need to put it in the middle here, so everything's going to be in the middle. No, in this case, the actual point of this photo is the guy falling through the donut, which is at the intersection of these two lines. And that cross point, right, is where the drama is happening. When you take those away, the photo looks better constructed, better composed. It looks more, more interesting. And that's because it's using that rule of thirds. So you just look at those thirds, the top third, middle third, lower third, and decide which set of intersecting lines will your drama happen. Because if I centered that donut in the action right in the middle here, this shadow here, which helps create some of the better part of the photo to really highlight the bright donut, would actually be down the bottom here and kind of hidden away. You wouldn't see much of it. So the whole photo would look a bit weird. It wouldn't look very balanced. And there's a whole lot of theories like Fibonacci numbers, which tell us why that is the case. Our eye tends to lean to the right if we're from a Western country. If you're from, say, China or the Middle East, for instance, where your language is written from right to left, you'd probably move this center of drama from this point to this point over here. So that because you'd be going across, you'd be viewing your camera from right to left rather than left to right. Lots of theories. I won't go too deep into that. I'm not a photographer, but I kind of understand the concept. Taking your photos in different settings, not just putting them on a kitchen bench, putting photos of products, putting photos of yourself in interesting places. I had a photo shoot in Adelaide several weeks ago, and we went to the Botanic Gardens and took tons of photos of me talking as if I was presenting to people. And because they created different environments, the photos became way more interesting. Always try and capture attention. Always try the delivery of the message, making sure the message is consistent and easy to understand. The attention capture is going to be from movement and motion and bright colors, but always designed for audio off. Assume that people are not listening to you, they're just viewing you. Have audio in there, but don't make it so that the message is on audio, because they're not going to hear it. Always designed for mobile. Use the space you've got. Keep the text really minimal, like in this example. So you want to make sure that you're using the full frame of your mobile phone, so you can use it for reels, you can use it for stories, and you can use it for the feed as well. But keep the text really minimal. They've used very little text on there to make you more interested, because remember, we're still just getting people's attention at this stage. If they want to know more about you, notice how they'll suddenly see your logo. They'll go looking for you then, if they're interested in what you're doing. And I'd like to finish off with themes. Themes are all about engaging, educating, exciting. This is a little bit like the customer journey of awareness, consideration, and conversion. These are the themes you get to on those steps. At the awareness stage, you've got to engage people, and you can do that by sharing the story of how your business got started. People love stories. Show how you give back to your community. Tell a story about how you've been helping this particular community group to get their new playground sorted out, or you sponsor the under-7s soccer team, or you sponsor your daughter's local ballet recital studio. And then take people on a virtual tour of your business. Even if it's just your desk, go across the desk and say, it might look like I'm neat and tidy in office here, but my desk is a mess. Help me. Does someone know how to clean up a desk better? And start that engagement by just being that's authentic and real. It may seem like really, really pithy little things, but they're really interesting little things that draw people's attention. At that second stage, where we're going to the consideration, people want to educate them. That's where we go and explain what makes our product or service different or special or unique. We take people behind the scenes of the business to show them what we do, and we show them how to use that product or service. If you're a personal trainer, one of the more powerful things you can do is say, here's something which is going to burn fat faster, is by doing this move, or by doing this particular hack in the kitchen, you can cut half of the calories out and remove a lot of those carbs, or whatever it is that you want to introduce to people. You can do that through showing them how to use the things that you do and sell, not just showing them what you do or sell. And the final area, which is at the conversion end of that process of the awareness, consideration, conversion, is you need to excite people. Not like as in, I'm so excited. It's in exciting someone to take action. So you can announce a new product or service that people will get excited enough to be able to go and check out what that is. You excite them into action, not just to be excited. You can share promotions, sales, discounts, new products, new services that you want to introduce. Engage in topics that people are talking about right now. You want to take a stand on the war in Ukraine? Then you can take that stand in the war in Ukraine and bring it through to your content and say, I am supporting this by donating this. That sort of stuff helps people to get a better picture of who you are and of what your position on and morals and ethics might happen to be.